Welcome, Kartik Rathore to the show. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
And I think it's interesting. I really wanted to have you on the show. Number one, just because we've gotten to know each other recently, and our conversations have just every time kind of gone in a fun direction.
Yeah.
But also because you are an entrepreneur and approaching business and having a philosophy of how to approach business, I think is just such an interesting thing when it starts to mingle with creativity. You owned a successful bar and restaurant here in Dallas, Texas called People's Last Stand.
Yep.
And now you have Hello Hotshot, which is essentially disrupting the carrier and logistics industry.
So I started my career doing corporate work. So when I graduated from college, I was with a consulting firm
Hmm.
and I was ready to take that traditional path. Like consultants typically they spend a few years in consulting, they go back to business school, and then they go back either to consulting or go on to do some other big corporate jobs. And when I was at that point, I thought, all right, well, let me try something on my own before I commit to that because I just was never sure that that was what I wanted to do. So I decided that I was going to open the People's Last Stand, and it was going to be a way for, again, the creativity for our bartenders who were, I mean, as you mentioned, the old fashioned, right? There are unique twists that people were putting on cocktails at the time.
Hmm.
And we wanted to really create a place where we can express that creativity,
Hmm.
And I do think that we kind of pushed the envelope in terms of creativity. Like we started introducing this community to um, trying things that were a little outside of their, comfort zone. And that left lasting impact on the restaurant industry at large, I feel.
Hmm.
Many of the bartenders that came through People's were able to now, kind of disperse throughout the city and affect programs in the different restaurants that they're working. So I'm happy that we were able to do that, and I think that that's how we really defined our success. What we're doing with Hello Hotshot is completely different. It's more logistics based and trucking based and very different. But again, it was something where I saw an opportunity and I thought, okay, well, maybe there's a way that I could, have an impact here. And, we could try to build something that's going to help this community. And that's kind of what we're doing with Hello Hotshot now.
Just for those out there who don't know, just tell me, what is Hello Hotshot?
So Hello Hotshot provides transportation and freight services for any cargo that's under 15,000 pounds. So traditionally, commercial shippers work through a broker load board system where they have somebody they call who takes their information and then posts it on a load board, and various carriers all over the country then call on that load. And that system, the way that it's traditionally done, has a lot of moving parts. And so Hello Hotshot simplified many of those processes. So we kind of took everything under one umbrella, and we focused on one category of freight that is often overlooked by brokers that are looking to move heavier things. And we specialize in it by having an intimate knowledge of the equipment and the actual job itself. Everybody that works with us all has experience actually moving the cargo. So it's a perspective that almost like a ground up perspective rather than a top down, where you have a broker that's looking down for these opportunities, but they don't really understand the intricacies of how complicated it is to actually get these jobs done.
Mm.
And so with our expertise, we hope to be able to address many of the pain points and the issues that our clients face, by simplifying the process and, making sure that the information is transferred in an efficient way.
If you could, just give a baseline for where technology kind of crosses the path of logistics for you and creates that streamlined efficiency inside of the typical process.
Yeah, I mean, the simplest example that I could provide is Uber, right? Where everything that you need to move your body from one place to another is available via their technology, right? You
Mm.
can order it, you can track it, you can pay for it, you can, register problems, you can update your information. All the stuff that you would need to do is in that technology. So the way that logistics works now is it's still a lot of phone calls. It's still a lot of, oh, where are you at? Right? Like, what time are you going to be here? These, it's still a lot of, all right, I'm going to mail you an invoice and you're going to mail me a physical check.
Hmm.
Right? It's an antiquated way of doing things. And so there's no real new technology that we're using. We're just kind of implementing what's currently available and what we're using in our personal lives anyway to address this issue with shippers. So all the administrative work, Hello Hotshot has now taken that off the plates of the carriers, off the plates of the shippers. And so our real strength is our knowledge base coming from the carriers that we have working with us, right? Like, they know the right questions to ask. They know how to solve the problems roadside because they've been there. They know how to the information that needs to get transferred, between parties and when it needs to get transferred. They have a real firsthand understanding of it, and that helped us tailor our technology to kind of fit this application, right? And
Mm.
so you have to understand the business and you have to understand the job first.
That's interesting. So not only does Hello Hotshot have a vetted set of carriers or operators already inside of the business. So you have your network of people. Let's your example was Uber, so it's like an Uber driver where that
Yes,
person's vetted, background check, they have all the proper licenses, they have all the proper equipment. So whatever that means for Hello Hotshot, all that stuff's already in place.
that's right.
And once you've gotten that foundation built, which you have, then you went back and did the technological piece of it, which is how do we automate and streamline the stuff that's antiquated, but keep that human element that really grounds the meaning of logistics here.
Yes, that's exactly what we did.
I mean, that's incredibly valuable, in my opinion.
Well, I hope so. And oftentimes it's meant to be that simple. And in logistics, it gets complicated very quickly,
Mm.
right? Because, you know, there's a hands-on aspect of it. And so when you get to a site and it isn't the cargo isn't what you thought it was going to be, getting in and out of places isn't as easy as you thought it was going to be. There isn't there isn't the equipment to load unload. These are all specific questions that we faced, right? Like, as carriers, we have faced those questions. So even before we actually get down into the nitty-gritty of a project, these are the questions that we ask up front, right?
Mhm.
And traditional brokers, they have hundreds of loads that they just want to keep it going, right? And oftentimes they'll miss some of those details. That's really where our strength is. That's why we call everything that we work on, we don't call them loads, we call them all projects, because individually they're all a little bit different. Yeah, many of them are the same, and many of them are, for commercial shippers that are doing this all day, every day. They
Mhm.
have a set process that they work, and those are the easiest ones to work with. But that's not everybody. And if we treat it individually, then we can avoid some of the problems that plague this industry and that plague some of the carriers. It's just a matter of gathering the information up front, you
Yeah.
know?
But even then, I think it's interesting because then it becomes a real bottom up thing, even from a philosophy of business approach. Because I think what you're essentially saying is it sounds like not only are you protecting the item that's being moved, and obviously you are doing whatever it takes to make sure you have all the data to know that you can do it safely and appropriately, but you're also kind of protecting the integrity of the shipper and the integrity of the carrier simultaneously,
Absolutely.
which I think that gets into a philosophy of business conversation, which is, when we talk about like maximization, right? So like these large logistics companies moving loads continuously, the goal, kind of like you're saying, is to literally just generate dollars, let some of the details slip through the cracks because even the extra cost to take care of those things as they come up throughout the process, we don't really care about that because the profit margin goes up if we can just move more loads in one day.
Absolutely.
Whereas what you're saying is more about like, I'm going to pay attention to each individual project, make sure it's done properly, and then the experience of that client will then radiate out to other clientele.
That's the thinking, right? I mean, traditional brokerages, they operate on margin. They want to their whole business is being able to extract as much money as they can out of their shippers and relinquish as little as they can to their carriers. If problems arise, it's not their problem, it's not their load, it's not their cargo, um, and it's not their carrier, right? This is an independent contractor. So oftentimes they're able to pass the buck on to, the guy that's the lowest on the totem pole, meaning the guy that's actually moving the freight. Early on, when I got into the business, I bought the truck and I bought the trailer and I started working in this in the conventional system to really understand how it operates, right? Like what really makes it work.
Mm.
And what I found is that when things go sideways, the brokers typically are not your ally. They're not somebody there that's going to help you resolve that issue and keep it going.
Mm.
They're like, look, you signed up for this job. This is your problem. You have to figure it out now, And for a guy that is over the road, or a guy that their job is to make sure that they're driving safely and securing their cargo properly and staying compliant, this is the hardest part of the job, right? Like dealing with the complications that come up with these loads. I felt that that was an injustice to the people that are actually doing the heavy lifting. As somebody that has been through those problems and done the job, that's kind of what I learned, right? And I had to learn it the hard way. And I thought that when we do this, we're going to do it with a carrier first approach. It's in our best interest to make sure that those carriers have the information that they need and they're running clean. We serve them as much as we serve our clients. Without a healthy carrier network, Hello Hotshot is just another group out there that's kind of operating this traditional model.
Mhm.
Our greatest strength is our carrier base, and we go above and beyond to make sure that that carrier base stays healthy.
You seem to have this, objective perspective where you're almost able to step back and look at industries as a whole. I mean, you talking about how you stepped back and looked at, "Okay, this is the trajectory that consultancy is gonna take me. Here's the road if I go out and start my own thing." Have you always been a person you feel like that can sort of do that? Like, step back, take a look at the full big picture, and have an understanding for it?
I wouldn't say that I would have an understanding for it. I would say that, like, I would likely be able to step back and see it at large and kind of think about what the end could look like, right? Like when I saw it, I could say this with Hello Hotshot with more confidence than I would with People's, because with People's I was young, right? I mean, I was 29 when we opened, and
Mm.
I think a lot of it was driven by this notion that I have this knowledge. I work for this prestigious firm, right? Like, so from a business perspective, I have the roots, but what I really lacked was the experience. And being a small business owner, everyone gets into the business with these lofty goals and this idea that it's going to be this great big thing. And when the reality sets in and you realize that the day-to-day problems, the day-to-day process of making things successful is way more challenging, right? And it's
Mhm.
way more hands-on and it takes up a lot of your time. So your goals kind of shift. And, with Hello Hotshot, I think that I learned those lessons with People's the hard way. So with Hello Hotshot, I was like, all right, I have to be maybe less ambitious and more almost collaborative and try to understand what I'm getting myself into before I can firmly say with any kind of confidence or convince people like, hey, this is an idea that's actually going to work, right? I learned a lot from the people that I worked with. And it was mainly about like, the type of business that I want to run and the type of impact that I want to have on my community. It goes beyond just like the dollars and cents in one individual. It's if you're not willing to make a mark and do something that is bigger than just you and bigger than just for you. So it's almost a backwards approach that I've learned to employ now later in my career.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something as a small business owner, you definitely start to realize, I mean, you at least get some sort of equalization at some point that kind of checks your ego and reminds you that, like, just because you think this thing is going to be this huge success or have some long trajectory, you lose those notions pretty quick
Yeah.
and pull the ego out of yourself pretty quick.
And I think successful people, you always hear about the triumphs, but you don't often hear about all the setbacks that those people have faced. And it's the setbacks that really have defined their character, how they bounce back from them and what they learn from them and how they react to them, right? I was recently reading this book where it was a sales book, and I kind of lost interest when the author kept reminding me that, they were wrong, right? Like these people told me I couldn't do it and I did it. And everyone said that I was unable to sell it at this rate and I was able to do that, right? And so I proved them all wrong. And I was like, man, it seems like you're just continuing to feed your ego, right? Like you're looking for an opportunity to prove somebody wrong because that serves a purpose for you.
Mhm.
If people are telling you something that you don't want to hear or is, the opposite of what you assumed or the path that you're going to take, that's generally a good thing, right? Like there's a lot you can learn from people that are saying, no, that's not going to work, right? Like now I know rather than taking that as a personal offense to listen to it and absorb it and kind of try to understand their perspective and say, "Hey, maybe there's something that I missed." And now they're wrong about that. That's my mistake because I didn't explain it properly how we're going to get around that. Or yeah, that's a very good point and I need to bring that like kind of to the forefront here. One thing that I learned with Hello Hotshot is I haven't reached a point yet where I'm like this isn't going to work, right? Like yeah, you hit walls as you go along and there hasn't been a point where I'm like, "Nope, I didn't consider that. That changes everything, and that's gonna now put this down," right? Like, we've run into challenges, and we've worked with a smart group of people that are able to say, "All right, this is a workaround, or this is a better way of doing it, and let's see if we can try that path." And thankfully, we continue to go down that path. I think that there are certain points where you ignore that wall, right? Like
Mhm.
you're like, man, now's my time to just bust through it, right? Like now's my time to just either climb over or get through it. And it's like, yeah, maybe it is, but slow down and listen and really try to gain that perspective. And I think that is going to serve you in the long run. One thing I found is that it slows everything down, right? Like I found myself questioning my assumptions or like, my process because I'm like, man, I don't know, right? But I feel that unless you move forward with a confidence that you're on the right path,
Mhm.
you could get really jammed up down the line. I'm sure that you guys felt the same thing when you started. It's like, hey, this is what we could do. We could do it a better way. We could do, in house, and we can put a crew together to make this have a legitimate service that we can offer our clients. And
Mhm.
you can see the vision, but it's often difficult to convey that vision to others, especially people that aren't really invested in your success as much as you are.
When you run a services business, the proof is always in the pudding. Like a product, it's easier to sell because it's a tangible thing,
Mm,
right? Someone can buy the thing, I give you money, you give me a product. If I give you money for a service, I'm purchasing your integrity, I'm purchasing your knowledge base,
right.
your expertise. So it really is one of those things where a lot of times if we meet resistance with a client, we know that after phase 1 will be good because as long as we can get you to do a shoot, as long as we can get you to come through here on an edit, we can prove to
Mm,
you that it's worthwhile and we can keep, the costs where you need them and all the stuff that goes into the moving parts of service
right.
businesses, right?
Yeah.
If you step back and look at it objectively, right? You look at this is how I wanted to approach Hello Hotshot. This is kind of the philosophy of business that I have. At some point, someone might tell you, well, you're sacrificing some margin here, to make this a reality, or you're not maximizing the amount of projects you can do in a 12-hour day. So I'm just curious, why approach it this way? Why do it this way?
I've thought about this, and it's not some people, most people say that taking this approach is going to affect your money, right?
Hmm.
I've come to learn that money is not the sole objective. It's not about maximizing the margin, right? This is a hands-on business where you're dealing with people and whatever we can do to help people, that is our paramount concern, right? The money is there, the money has to be right, and the money has to be sustainable. But trying to take and trying to get as much money out of people or trying to get as much as you can out of people and that being your pathway to success, I think is disingenuous. And you feel the same way. And if that means that I have to give up some margin or I have to, you know, I have to earn less, that's okay.
Mhm.
Right? Like that to me, that's okay. It may be a slower process to get where I want to be, but I found that it's not always about trying to make as much as you possibly can. Keep it lean, make sure that you're treating people properly, and make sure that, the guys that are working for you aren't overstressed and they're not overworked and they feel good about the project as a whole. They feel
Mhm.
good about the company as a whole, right? Like we're in this together. And one motto that I've always said with the guys that I work with is nobody eats until all of us eat. That credibility is difficult to build. That rapport is difficult to build with somebody, if it's not genuine.
It's street cred. It's what you and I grew up, experiencing as street cred and understanding that
That's
that
right.
that that goes a long way. It then translates to the client, right? The uh, I think the client takes notice and starts to realize that these is the kind of people I wanna work with because if they're streamlining the process, that means a reduction in errors along the way.
Right.
And then if they are protecting the integrity of the carrier and my project all simultaneously, that means great cost efficiency. I can increase my frequency, and you start using your service more, which will then, because of the reduction in errors, because everyone along the way is taken care of,
Right.
everything will move much more efficiently.
I'll tell you from our perspective, when a carrier shows up to a shipper and they know the details and they know what they're getting themselves into, there are no surprises. They're very open and they're very like, it's an easy conversation, right? Like there's no veil there.
Mhm.
So our shippers see that too, right? Like that friction isn't there, that like tension isn't there. Do you see that on set as well?
Definitely. We definitely see it on set, and I think I sort of just believe that every problem can be solved. Every problem has a solution.
Right.
So my demeanor usually impacts everyone else around me, and my demeanor is very low stress.
Mm,
I allow things to come in, and then we digest them patiently together. There's no reason, right, to like lose your cool
right.
or scream and yell or throw a fit or be frustrated or any of those things. Those are all emotions that are secondary psychologically. So
Right.
not at the root of the problem. And I usually like to focus what's the root of the problem so we can find a solution.
So those people that create that environment, that high stress environment, they're yelling and screaming, that are your counterparts. Have you seen them? And how does that affect the crew? How does that affect the client? Like, how does it
Mhm.
affect the vibe of the whole shoot? Does it change everything?
It changes everything, and I think I worked for people like that,
Yeah.
so it starts to trickle out
Mm,
and affect how everyone's then approaching everything. Because then everyone's walking on thin ice. Now everything is something that could break apart at any moment.
right.
Any mistake that happens or any shortcut that is taken
Right.
then becomes a much bigger issue because everything is inflamed. Whereas the way I like to approach it is if we just stay calm and execute everything as we're supposed to, not only do you reduce errors like that because everyone has the time to focus and pay attention to what they're doing, but you also don't create an environment where people are afraid to say something
Right.
or afraid to raise an issue that they run into. That then if you create that environment where people aren't open to talk about a problem because they think you're going to freak out,
Right.
well, then a bunch of problems are just gonna get swept under the rug,
Exactly.
and no one's gonna figure it out.
Right.
So I think that's the danger. The danger is, like, creating an environment where people don't feel comfortable, and really, with patience, with good guidance, simple direction, you can get where you need to go.
Yeah.
And I think it sounds like Hello Hotshot is doing that. It's naturally built into your process, which I think is the really interesting thing about it, is, like, it's a part of the system itself.
See, problem solving is the cornerstone of being a good carrier, right? We face challenges over the road. We face challenges when we're doing this job. And how we handle those challenges is really what sets apart like the good ones and the bad ones. As somebody that, as yourself, like at the top of the organization, it almost goes it kind of funnels down.
And I think pretty quickly, as you get older and you get more experience, what you realize is the best plan of action is to allow for the other experts in the room to help you solve the problem. And honestly, just sometimes stay out of the way.
Yes,
Let them do their thing. They are, they do this day in and day out, and they do it for you 100 times out of the year
that's
too.
right.
So as long as you show up and you say, "This is our objective. These are the things I'm gonna need from you today." That's it.
If you empower them to make those small decisions on their own, that goes a long way as well. Not only in terms of getting the job done, but also in terms of showing that, hey, you respect this person and you trust their judgment, right? And so handle it, right? Like handle it the way that you see fit. And if it's not the way that I would have done it, that's okay too. But
Mhm.
you know, do what you think is best, and whatever the outcome is, we're gonna have your back, right?
Yeah.
I think that really builds camaraderie with the people that you rely on to run a successful business.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think that calls back to that whole philosophy of how to approach a business, because I think what it does is when you set up those as your baseline, the integrity of the project, the integrity of the people on the job, and the integrity of your service to the client. All of those things can be balanced. It's actually why our company is called Equilateral. It's equal on all sides,
mm,
an equilateral triangle. And I think the whole point was we knew that we could build something that treated every step in the process equally. And if you do that and you treat everyone in the process equally, then not only is it healthy for the business, even if you sacrifice margins a little bit along the way, it's a long game.
it's a long game. That's right.
And I think the long game is, for some reason, a lot of times in the business world, undervalued and underestimated.
You go and you push and you push and you push, especially in the beginning, and you think that, okay, I just need to get big. My goal is to get big, right? But if you take the long approach and you play the long game, then you know that it's going to be something that we can all work on together, that we're all kind of invested in seeing it successful. Because again, we're all taking that view. As an entrepreneur, it slows down the process because you're hungry and you're out of the gate and you want to charge ahead.
Yeah.
Taking the time to plan it out, taking the time to really see the full picture, and then having a plan and executing, I think that is better than just kind of bum rushing a project and, trying to get as big as you can as quickly as you can and then experiencing that sparkle and fade. You're working at your pace and you're running a good business and you feel good about yourself, you're good to your family, you're good to your community. That means more than, just being this hungry wolf that's going after anything that you can and sacrificing everything else in your life as a result of that, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Especially in smaller markets, I mean, in our industry, I don't know how it is in the carrier industry, but in our industry, while Dallas has a lot of work, it is a smaller market.
Yeah.
So you can really kind of find your niche and carve it out.
Mm.
Is it the same for carrier and logistics?
The freight market is massive
Sure.
and it's everywhere, right? And
I mean, it's attached to like the global economy. It's
absolutely
how we have these glasses on the table.
everything that we see in this room, including the material that was used to build it, was all brought here on a truck. It was all conveyed on our roadways,
Hmm.
right? In 2023 and 2022, I traveled 167,000 miles through this country.
Mm.
And I've come to think of America as the body, right? And the roadways that run through this body. I've come to think of those roadways as the veins, and we, the truckers, are the lifeblood that keep all those disparate corners of this country alive and healthy, right? All the products that we need, everything that we need to sustain development, sustain our lives in all these different places, we're the ones that keep it healthy. I found that focusing on, our target, like by focusing on just this small subsection, we can get it we can be really, really good at it.
Hello Hotshot is a completely different thing from People's.
Yes.
And both of them are, I would argue, completely different from consultancy.
Absolutely.
So what is it that keeps driving you as an entrepreneur? Like what is it that you feel like is inside of you that continues to push you into these new arenas to start new businesses?
I feel that I have been given many opportunities. There are many people, including my parents and my family, that have sacrificed on my behalf, and they've gi- they've given me opportunities to do something great and do something meaningful. And you know, I feel that I want to be part of something that is going to leave a lasting impact on my community.
Mm.
This path, of entrepreneurship has not been easy. Like you always hear about the entrepreneurs at the end and how successful they are and how
Right.
much they've achieved. But for every one of those, there are hundreds that have tried that same path and failed miserably, and they keep going and they keep trying and they keep trying. And I keep asking myself whether or not that's me. Like, at one point, do you give it up and just say, you know what? The stability of having a steady paycheck and having, the reliability of just the job, right? Like, just you go in, you do your work, and then you go home. That's certainly appealing in times when, things get tough.
Yeah.
But the reward that you get when you have this idea and you see it come into fruition, you see it working, you see other people get excited about it, you see how it benefits other people. When you see it work, even once, the first time is the most important time. The
Mhm.
first time you see it work, you're like, shit, that's fucking cool,
Mm.
right? I remember the night that I sold People's, it was the last shift that I had, and we had closed. We cleaned the bar. It was 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was standing there and looking at the bar for the last time as the owner. The next day, the papers are signed, and that was it. And one of our barbacks was walking past, and he looks at me and he goes, "Dude, we really built something here, right? Like we built something out of nothing because there was nothing here before we started this,
Mhm.
and we built it, and we put it together, and we ran it, and we did it together." And that's what I think about, right? Like we build something. Every time I drive past it, I think, all right, well, this is the way that I've left my mark on my community, right? For good or bad, this is what I've done. And at the end of it, I can say that I didn't take a traditional path and maybe I didn't reap the rewards that I probably could have had I stayed on that path, but that's okay because I left my mark in this way. And I think that's really what drives entrepreneurs, especially early on, right? Like they just want to do something. They want to do something big. They want to leave their mark on their whatever it is, whatever community that they're part of.
Hmm.
Hello Hotshot is a big way that I feel that I could do that, but in small ways, trying to be a positive force in my community is my sole purpose, right? I feel now after all these years of working I no longer have this a desire to accumulate a lot for myself. I really wanted to improve the lives of the people that live in the communities that I operate in.
Well, on that note, thanks for coming on the show,
Dude,
dude.
this was good.
I appreciate it.
I've been waiting for this opportunity to sit down with someone like you to have these kinds of conversations.
Sweet.
Dude,
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I love it.
You too, man. Our executive producers are myself and Jessica Kramer. Our producer is Giselle Saucedo. Our editor is Max Smith. Music by Creators. I'm your host, Roger Peters. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.